In many of the merger and acquisitions cases, businesses would ideally expecting for a better performance post-merger and acquisition. However, life isn't perfect. Are you aware there are many businesses' performances after the merger and acquisition may ended up worse than before? So what is going on? What went wrong on the post-marriage life of the combined company? Hello, my name is Tze Kang, the expert tutor for Advanced Financial Management. And this topic explainer is about synergies post-merger. In this video, the synergy post-merger will be mainly made on the discussions referring to the ACCA resources, primarily Study Hub. For learning purpose, students are encouraged to refer to the relevant chapter. In this topic explainer, it refers to chapter 8. In particular, it crossed over to section 8.1, particularly 8.1.4 and 0.5, and then followed by 8.6. So these are the ranges of the references for learning purpose in this topic explainer, followed by ranges of practices referring to quizzes pertaining to the relevant chapter, as well as practices that comes in several forms of questions, such as exam format revision questions, other revision questions, and study questions. These are all worth practicing for knowledge enhancement. By the end of learning, you are advised to recap the knowledge by referring to the flashcard for recapping terminology on specific technical terms. Last but not least, ranges of technical articles, practice platforms containing ranges of past exam questions. Finally, examiner's report. These are precious learning materials to enhance the learning outcome on this topic explainer. The first part of this video will take you through to understand, firstly, what are the types and sources of synergy that may arise from most of the merger and acquisition. It then followed by what exactly would have gone wrong post-merger and acquisition. In other words, what would have gone wrong on post-marriage life of a business. Finally, how exactly the businesses would undertake necessary measure to mitigate such incidents. And with all these explanations, the demonstrations will be made referring to one of the past exam questions at the end of this video. So what exactly are the types of synergy that may arise from merger and acquisition? Well, let's first understand the appearance and the presence of synergy from a series of M&A. Before merger and acquisition, supposing this is the value of equity for company P, and same apply for the value of equity for company T. Combining the value of equity of both entities that give rise to the total. However, after the merger and acquisition, the combined value of equity of the combined entity PT would largely and likely to be higher than of the value of the combined company before the merger. The excess of this value of equity after the acquisition comparing to before, this excess is then termed synergy. So guys, what exactly make up this synergy? Let's explore and find out the sources or the types of synergy. As you may be aware from the learning syllabus of AFM, there are three broad types of sources of synergy arising from merger and acquisition. Firstly, cost synergy, followed by revenue synergy, finally, financial synergy. So, to recap, what exactly is a cost synergy? These are mainly arising from examples such as economies of skills leading to cost reduction or improvement in efficiencies from skills transfer, which also may lead to a reduction in the cost. All these savings in the cost of operation are termed cost synergy. On the other source of synergy, that is arising from market power. What do you mean by that? When a company merge or acquire with another company that is, say for instance, a competitor. Once the two entities get together, they will dominate a bigger chunk of the market share in the industry. With a more dominant presence in the industry, they may obtain and possess an advantage in setting prices and dominating the entire market share. So these kind of undue or unfair advantage will then call as market power. And then cross-selling the products from one company customer to another company customer, which also may boost up revenue. And all these will contribute to revenue synergy. Last but not least, any synergy that is arising from financing or capital structure of the combined company. These benefits are then termed financial synergy. Example of such synergy could be of a reduction in financial risk. What do we mean by that? When two companies were to merge or acquire among each other, you may notice that once the size of the corporations got enlarged, it bounds to help reducing the volatility or the variability of the cash flow. With a more stabilized volatility or the variability of the cash flow, that reduces the riskiness of the businesses after the merger and acquisition. That gives rise to one form of financial risk reduction. Another instance, should a company that holds and earn a higher credit rating is taking over another company with a lower credit rating. As a result of the merger and acquisition, there is a chance and there is a likelihood company with a lower credit rating will get improved on the credit rating. So with the upgrade in the credit rating, that will help to reduce the overall financial risk of the company from the eye of the investor. And all these things will give rise to a lower rank of a WACC that increases the market value of the company as a whole. And all these give rise to financial synergy resulting from financial risk reduction. The other example of financial synergy would be arising from an increase in the tax shield from loan interest, particularly when a company is acquiring another company that is of high in gearing. So these high level of debt finance would have given rise to huge amounts of tax shield from the loan interest. That gives rise to another form of financial synergy. And last but not least, when more entities are together as a group after the merger and acquisition, it will provide more opportunity to have existing internal hedging techniques that help to manage the risk. Not to mention all, netting is one of the hedging arrangement that is available internally from a conglomerate as comparing to a standalone company. So all these will give rise to financial synergy in addition to the first two synergy as mentioned. And all these things will contribute to the excess of the market value of the entity for the combined company. When a merger and acquisitions went through, justified by the synergy effect as mentioned a moment ago, why is that certain company, the post-merger and acquisitions performances may worse than before? What has gone wrong in the merger and acquisition? Let's explore the reason and unveil the answer what could have gone wrong on post-merger and acquisition. Firstly, these disasters would usually be found and proven when benefits of the post-merger and acquisition may not be as much as expected, especially with the evidences shown in the decline in the financial performances, such as the combined profits, or declining share price performances, last but not least, a decline in staff morale or resignation of key staffs. All these are the symptoms signifying the failure in the M&A. So what could give rise to such failure in the M&A? And here are the factors that giving rise to the above. There are two broad factors that could contribute to such disaster. First and foremost, overpricing on the bid price would be one of the most commonly seen reasons. Secondly, once two entities come together, it is very likely to give rise to mismatch or misalignment of mission, visions, and then followed by objectives of the two entities are different. And all these differences would reflected into the differences in the DNA of two entities that represented by a 7S model that discovered by McKinsey. Guys, for AFM, there's no requirement for you to learn in detail what exactly are the 7 S's. However, it is worth pointing to you. Students who come from SBL or APM, you would have learned this much more familiar for those who are not going through these two exam papers. So guys, in this topic explainer, for references, these are the listing on the 7 S's that found in every entity, which I would call these as the DNAs of a business. Very likely, a merger and acquisitions that involve with two separated business entities would carry different on these 7 components of assets. Just imagine putting the two entities with two different sets of DNAs together. That may cause a lot of mismatch. Should this mismatch is not handled with care and properly, that would then contribute to the above failure in the M&A. In the syllabus and the exam context of AFM, the first main factor will be discussed in more detail in this topic explainer, in addition to some of the additional knowledge that may be required on the mismatch in the following as discussed a moment ago. So guys, let's explore more detail. What exactly would give rise to overpricing on the bid price? And the answer is very likely this overpricing on the bid price is contributing from overestimation on the synergy effect that mentioned a moment ago. So what could give rise to the overestimations of such synergy effect? What are the possible root causes? Here are the answers. The first possible root cause would be due to ranges of irrational behavior that would have learned by students in AFM in the topic termed behavioral finance. Guys, you are advised to go back to the study hub, referring to more details on behavioral finance in chapter 2. Furthermore, there is a topic explainer video in the ACCA resources that you may refer to pertaining to behavioral finance. Not to mention all, the following are some examples of behavioral finance that could give rise to overestimation on synergy. When the valuer of the M&A tends to be overconfident on him or herself pertaining to all the assumptions, there is a high likelihood that this synergy will be overly estimated. Alternatively, management's team or the valuer, for certain reason, they will persist to carry on with this M&A despite of the doubt. So hence, this team member will look out for evidences to confirm and justify their action to persuade and convince the shareholder. And this gives rise to confirmation bias. Not to mention all, another example I would like to quote would be now the valuer, if it is represented by the team of the management of the predator company that would like to convince the shareholder to take over a target company. They may want to demonstrate a behavior to the shareholders that we are keeping up the trend in the market. Take for instance, if the target company is involved in the technology sector, and now the trend in the market is so popular for everyone to go into the technology sector. So hence, it is a very high likelihood the management team of the predator company would tend to overly estimate the synergy to convince the shareholder of predator to allow the management team to pursue the takeover on the target company that is also happen to be in technology sector. So these trend following. It's just referring to one of the irrational behavior termed noise trading. Apart from this range of the irrational behavior, in the absence of performing a thorough due diligence may also lead to an overly estimating the value of synergy by using an overly optimistic assumption. Last but not least, maybe the synergy at the point of estimation may look to be acceptable. However, with the unexpected changes in the external environment on pastel or five forces, that may render the synergy estimated originally tends to be overly valued. A sudden change in the government, a sudden change in the regime of the country would be a typical example that gives rise to this kind of overestimation of synergy. Guys, giving rise to these two broad reasons and factors that explain the overestimation of synergy. What can the company do in mitigating such occurrence of incidents? So this gives rise to the second part of these questions. What are the mitigation measures? Guys, in overcoming or minimizing the influences from the irrational behavior, a good corporate governance practices in the firm by having a cross-check mechanism among the executive director and the non-executive directors. All this may help to minimize the influences of irrational behavior of a minority who influence the decision-making processes, but now it is managed to cross-check by another team member who are likely to be the non-executive director to ensure the rational behavior upheld and prevails comparing to irrational behaviors in making such a merger and acquisitions decision move. As for the absence of due diligence, these explain the reason most merger and acquisition may require a proper due diligence exercise in verifying the validity of the claim of the assumption in the estimations of synergy. In terms of unexpected changes in the external environment, these give rise to the need and the importance to carry on and having strategic planning as well as sensitivity analysis to study all the possible outcomes of these incidents on the impact regarding the value of synergy before determining the bid price to be offered. Last but not least, in response to all the mismatch of the DNAs, directions, mission of the two entities, perhaps going through ranges of business process re-engineering or having a proper, well-planned change management will help to realign and will help to rematch the above. Students who have not taken SPL or APM will feel overwhelmed with these technical terms. Guys, not to worry. In AFM, it would be more than sufficient if you are able to narrate these mitigation measures with these alternative terms, synchronization or integrations of the two entities in terms of the practices. That will be good enough. With the emphasis on communications between the management team of the two entities, that will help to have a better mutual understanding and reduces all the mismatch and conflict. This will be an acceptable term that to be used in the exam of AFM. So, here comes the demonstrations on one of the exam questions pertaining to merger and acquisition. So guys, you are advised to either revisit the practice platform and give a try on these questions or pause the video looking at the screenshot before listening to the answer. For this topic explainer, the discussion is mainly refers to part B and C, whereby part B it's asking on discussing assumption made in the above calculation. And other than this discussion on the assumption, part B also may require to discuss whether the expected synergy are likely to be achieved. In the purpose of this video, the focus of the answering is mainly placed on the second half instead of both. Part C would then ask to explain the action that the board of this company P may take up to ensure companies are well integrated successfully, as well as the achievement on the synergy. And these are exactly the discussion we made a moment ago. So guys, time for you to set up the word processor, putting in all the requirements and get ready for the answering. But before that, let's take a look at some of the extracts of the content in Exhibit 1. Well guys, pause the video. If you haven't read these, go through the detail of it. Well, by looking into the first exhibit, it talks about the detail on P company and A company in simple. So first, it talks about the business background of both the company, which are both in the similar industry on publishing industry. Then it talks about what exactly are the publications for P company, and then what exactly is the publications for A company. After going through the detail, you will notice that the content of the publication is somehow quite different. The former is publishing on magazine pertaining to property and lifestyle, whereas the latter is publishing pertaining to sport-related magazine. And with all this, it then go on talk about the staffing, the management team elements of both entity. For P, they have a team of writers and editors responsible for creating the content. And these writers are mainly young, talented people who may stay for a limited time period. Whereas for A, they have also a team of in-house writer and editor. And as different comparing to the former, the team member of writers in A tends to work for longer periods in this company. So that shows the differences between the DNAs, between the two entities as mentioned in the 7S model. Other than that, there also seems to have some kind of differences in the style of the management in terms of the degree of autonomy assigned to the writer and editors between the two companies. Other than that, both the companies were then also having an online platform to show its presence, publishing part of the content of the magazine. Well, despite both the party host with this online platform, it seems the effectiveness, the success of the online platform for P seems to outperform the online presence of A. The former online platform or the website has won numerous awards, whereas the latter seems to have criticism on the existing design on the website. So guys, that showed again the differences between the two entities that you may want to take note. Well, finally, here comes the intention. P company is planning to take over A company. So the former is the predator, the latter is the target. And what is more important is the board member of the predator company P believes the acquisitions will generate and give rise to the following synergy. Keep an eye what exactly are the type of synergy that is claimed by the board. Firstly, online presence, followed by marketing, cross-selling. Guys, do you realize that these three synergy sounds to give rise to revenue synergy, as mentioned a moment ago? Whereas saving in staff, administration, and paper cost, that sounds to be an evidence of cost synergy. Well, before proceeding to the answering, here comes some of the detail on the acquisitions of A by P. Based upon all the details provided, mainly on financial data that use as a basis to derive the value. As you can see, pausing the video, going through the detail, you may see the intentions of providing all this information is telling you what are the set of assumptions that used in deriving the equity value of the acquisition. So all the footnote below representing ranges of assumption and estimate to be used. And let's not forget about the first part of these paragraph talk about the asking price and the bid price expected from both the party. Well, guys, this is not the purpose of the video of holding your hand going through the detailed calculation, as the discussion is mainly on part B and C. So give it a thought how exactly your answer plan will look like. So guys, just a quick glance on my answer plan. For part B, there are two tasks to be responded. Firstly, discussing the assumption that used in the calculations of A. Well, this is something that I would like to skip away by not putting too much of focus. However, here are some of the answer plan for your references. The discussion on the assumptions may include assumptions made on sales revenue. You may have to generate your discussion based upon the assumption extracted from the exhibit. Same goes to the percentage of post-tax operating cash flow to sales revenue and the needs for the investment, followed by growth rates, and lastly, cost of capital. So I will leave it to you to generate your content in answering the first task. Whereas for the second task in part B, whether expected synergy is likely to be achieved. Well, before I start generating my idea, I would like to get all the 6 items of synergy as claimed by the board member to stand by as my heading on the presentation. Followed by part C, we are asked to talk about the action the board member of P may want to undertake to ensure the integrations of the two entities is done successfully and we are able to achieve the synergy. So therefore, I would have come along with 2 subheadings on successful integration. Well, as what we learned a moment ago, the integrations will only be successful when effort is placed on communication and synchronization. So that would be my heading that will stand by for my articulation. For the realization of synergy, I would think about synergy is only be able to achieve and realize when the execution of the integrations of the combined company is closely monitored and guided with a sound and effective project management effort. And last but not least, from time to time, post-merger audit will be equally important, ensuring the achievement of the desired target. So guys, here's my fully developed answer for the second task in part B to answer whether the synergy are expected to achieve. Based upon ranges of synergy that we have listed out, you will notice that I actually put it into 3 subheadings. So how do I do that? Firstly, online presence. Based upon the discussion and the background of the two companies in terms of the strength on the online or the website presence, I would say the synergy effect on this enhanced market presence due to the differences between the two companies' ability, that is only be possible should the online market presence in A will get improved with an appealing design guided by the expertise team from P that used to win numerous awards. Do you see that? I do not put an answer of yes or no. I put a conditional answer. We may expect to achieve the synergy if the following is done. However, in terms of marketing and cross-selling, why am I putting them together? It's because that my finding is pretty much similar for both. So instead of wasting the time to duplicate, I put them as a combined heading. Let's take a look at this. The synergy effect of these initiatives, however, may be of limited. That is my thought. So I got to prove to the market. Why do I say so? It is mainly because of different reader groups of the 2 types of magazine that have 2 different fields of interest. When I start showing the doubt, on the other hand, I am showing some exceptional case. So by going through some of the elaborations shown here, I say unless the sport magazine that published by A company contains some of the specific sport like golf, which may be likely to join and link up well with property and lifestyle. So with this kind of the portrait of a leisure lifestyle that will probably encourage the reader of one magazine to buy over another magazine. That gives rise to synergy from revenue source. Well, in terms of saving on all the staff, admin, and paper costs, I may agree on some, however, I may disagree on some. So take a look at what I wrote over here. Why do I agree on some? Why do I disagree on some? These are my narration and articulation. Finally, looking at part C, how am I articulate successful integration that require communication and synchronization? Take a look at the way I articulate. How do I talk about the importance of communication? And how do I highlight the importance of synchronization? This is how I articulate the action required. Finally, to ensure realization of synergy, that is how I further elaborate on effective project management and post-merger audit. Spend some time, take a look at how I develop the articulation. And finally, you may refer to the model answers that shown on the screen for learning purpose, showing the articulations on synergy as well as the entire response required in part C. Well, guys, I hope this video would have given you a clearer picture in dealing with the questions asking on synergy post-merger. With that, thank you for watching.